is Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com, and today in my networking challenge, I'm speaking with Ingrid Stab. Ingrid is the co-author of the book, The Career Within You, and I'm really excited to speak with her today. So thanks so much for being here, Ingrid.
Thanks, Anna. It's great to be here.
Definitely. So let's get started with my first question. It is, how can we determine our greatest career strengths?
So there are a lot of ways to determine your strengths. A lot of people have heard of like the Myers-Briggs, Strengths Finder. There are a lot of personality tests out there, and I love them all. But what I have settled on, I think, is the most powerful framework, and I'm trying to tell everybody about it. It's called the Enneagram, Enneagram. But in the work setting, I use it as strength factors because what I focus on is our career strengths. But basically what you do is you determine what your career type is. It's one of 9 types. And then within there you drill down, and each of the types has different strengths. And we can do a little exercise with you later today. Mm-hmm. But basically, like I said, you find your career type. And this is based on, unlike Myers-Briggs and those other things, it's based on your core motivation, something that you've been doing ever since you were a little kid. So you've been practicing it over and over and over and over again without even thinking about it, to the point that when you're in your 20s and 30s, you have this powerful career strength that you do so flawlessly, better than anyone else. So you might as well really play that up in your career, in your resume, in your interviews, and everything that you do.
Awesome. So how can we use that to make sure we find the right career for us and the right job fit?
Well, in my book, we have, Elizabeth Wagley and I have these massive tables. Here's the book, The Career Within You. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to summarize because basically we have hundreds and hundreds of jobs. So what you do is you figure out your top 2 strengths, and then you kind of go through these tables to map it out and see what fits you really well. So what I thought would be a neat idea is to use you as a guinea pig, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because there are so many choices, but we'll narrow down yours and then see what that maps to, and for your career, to kind of give people an idea.
Okay, that'd be fun.
Okay. So I know I appreciate before our talk you did a little homework and you figured out your career type, or one of 2 possible career types. Do you want to mention those, and then I can add some more information?
Yeah, so the first one was a perfectionist. Those were the questions I answered. It sounded like the perfectionist is motivated to make improvements. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was the observer, who is motivated to acquire knowledge. I love reading, researching, of course, because I have my blog and everything. So those were the 2 that came up pretty high for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, so basically, probably your whole life you've been doing 2 things. One is making improvements, mm-hmm. which is what the perfectionist is great at. And then 2 is acquiring knowledge, which you've probably been ever since a kid, reading and learning. Just for fun on the perfectionist thing, because I find that fascinating to see a little kid perfectionist. When you were little, do you remember trying to get something perfect or all lined up, where you get kind of upset if it wasn't?
I remember studying for tests, and maybe I didn't do, I studied so hard and I got like a B+, and like I would just be so upset because I put so much time into it.
Oh.
I know.
Well, I think that your career strength as a perfectionist already really shows in your brand and your style. Like Classy Career Girl, it's classy. It has a certain aesthetic to it where you really pay attention to all the details and strive for excellence, and perfectionists have kind of like a really crisp, polished feel to everything they do, which I really pick up from your materials and your presentation. So it already is shining through in your style. But there's other speakers and bloggers on career, and they have a whole different feel to it. I think what you bring, it really, I think your listeners can see the perfectionist in what you do. Oh. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, that's my goal, to have that polished, classy look and everything. So that's awesome that it's coming through that way.
Oh, good. So for the observer, I actually want to skip to the other one you mentioned, mm-hmm. and I'm going to read 5 strengths I actually would call it, in our book, we call this the peace seeker, believe it or not. I'm skipping ahead quickly just for sake of time. And this is the type of observer who has a real broad perspective as opposed to the observer that's very focused on one area. And if we got it wrong, that's okay. We're going to just jump in and try it. I'm going to read 5 of the greatest strengths of the peace seeker, and I'd like you to rate yourself from 1 to 5. So, and maybe some of these you'll rank yourself low. That's fine. And also kind of work in how much you enjoy doing this.
Okay.
So the first is capacity to repeat. Rate your tolerance for doing one thing over and over and your ability to deliver consistency, 1 to 5.
4 or 5.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
I would rate myself pretty low on that one.
Yeah, no, if I can do something, I get in the habit of doing something and performing it, I can repeat it pretty well. But I think that's kind of my consulting work too, is I have my client and I'm doing that sort of work. So.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, empathy. How well do you listen in order to understand and experience the feelings or attitudes of another person?
4.
Yeah, you do that with this blog show.
Yeah.
Show a lot of empathy.
Yeah, and I love talking with my readers and stuff and trying to help them and figure out, where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're really good at that. Okay, mediating. Rate your ability to help differing parties negotiate or see one another's point of view.
Probably like a 2. I'm not very good at that.
Okay. Synthesizing information. Rank your ability to research and examine various forms of information and relate them to one another in a broader perspective.
Probably a 4.
Okay. And then finally, teamwork. How well do you cooperate with the group, acting with others in the interest of a common cause?
I'm going to give myself a 5.
Woo! Really? That's great.
Yeah. I'll give myself a 4, maybe.
Oh,
but
really?
I like working with teams and everything, so.
Well, I think being a perfectionist, you're not going to give yourself a 5 on anything. You probably downgrade yourself. Okay, because you can always see room for improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a perfectionist. So, okay, well, you ranked yourself really high on all 4, so let's just, in the sake of time, based on kind of what gives you a sense of excitement and happiness when you think of, if you had to do that every day, out of these 4, which 2 would you enjoy the most? The capacity to repeat, so sort of the routine, you might really enjoy routine and the comfort of repetition. Empathy, synthesizing information, or teamwork?
Probably empathy and teamwork.
Okay, great. Yeah, that seems really perfect for an organizational development consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that's going to be your match, but let me skip ahead. Like I said, we have these massive tables, but I'm not going to read everything, but I'll shout out some of the jobs that are a great fit for you with empathy and teamwork.
Cool.
Okay, so there's, I'll probably read about 10. There's banker, human resources specialist, organizational psychology consultant. That's kind of what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Relationship manager. That's more like a sales kind of a job. Well, those are the ones in business. We actually have other categories like education, government, healthcare, the arts, information technology, science, math.
So I would imagine there's like a trainer or a teacher on there or something, right? Like kind of an education.
Yeah, under education we have, let's see here.
Because I love to teach and train too,
You came up high for counselor.
Mm.
The teacher, in our book, we actually didn't rate teamwork that high. I mean, certainly teachers have to, work on teams. But a lot of times if you're alone with your class, you may not have as much teamwork opportunities as other jobs where you're working on a team.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of relative. So did you want to look into any other fields, or are you pretty much either business or education?
Yeah, no, that was really interesting to kind of show the readers how they can use those questions to determine maybe some career paths they could take and how to put it on their resume too. I like how you said, you could use this for their resume.
Right. Yeah, so like in your case, let's say someone who's listening also is great with teamwork and empathy. There are so many ways to emphasize that on your resume. So with the empathy, you can say like listening to the customer, caring about the customer experience, listening in terms of like, let's say gathering requirements, like writing requirements for web development or for a product, or there's so many ways, or customer service, I guess I mentioned that, but there's so many ways to talk about empathy within the context of your resume. And then teamwork, many, I think, kind of obvious ways to talk about that, but you might use different words throughout the resume to sprinkle it through, and by the end, after someone glances at your material, they realize, my goodness, this person is going to be awesome for these two areas. So you just want to make that really loud and clear instead of hiding it somewhere in the bullet points.
Definitely.
If those are your greatest strengths,
Right. So do you have any other recommendations for someone thinking about a career change?
Yeah, so often I see people, they go into a field, a lot of times in the beginning, just due to what they know from their family, what their parents did, what their friends were doing. There might be a field they just never knew about before, just because they didn't have exposure, but they would actually be very good at it. So, I think it's good in a career transition, depending on where you are in your career and what age you are. But I'm assuming a lot of your listeners are kind of more Gen Y. Do you have more Gen Y?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's good to, when you're in your 20s, get reconnected to what are your natural strengths. And then keep an open mind and look across many different industries. Like, you might find out that you would love to be a doctor or something. And no one in your family was a doctor, so you didn't go through the process of doing pre-med in college. It just wasn't your thing. But it's not too late to make a massive shift if you find out that's the perfect match for your strengths. You can always go do a post-bac and go and take your science courses now, or, that's an example. But start from the point of what you naturally do so well, and then find out what matches that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'm curious to hear how you kind of ended up in your career right now, and how you figured out you liked this personality testing and writing a book.
Yeah, well, my career has been mostly in business and marketing, which my parents, neither of them were in business, so I kind of fell into it because I love this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then ever since I was a kid, I did love personality typing. I don't know why. It's almost like a hobby,
Yeah.
I would, send out little questionnaires to the kids in my 5th grade class and have them mark, what's your favorite color, what's your favorite animal. So it's just one of those passions. I think each of us do have some passion. Either we know what it is, or it can sometimes take a couple decades to zoom in on that, but there's like a special thing. So it took me a long time to actually sit down and write this book, though, because I spent time going to business school, doing all this entrepreneurial stuff. I finally kind of circled back and remembered that my passion is this personality typing kind of thing. And then I went for it and sent a book proposal to HarperCollins, my number one option for a publisher. They loved it and accepted the book proposal right away. It was pretty lucky because it's not easy to get published, but it was sort of a testament to myself to, follow your dream. Like, people say that over and over again, but one way or another, if you stay true to your dream, you will find a way to bring things together and make it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that, because I have a lot of readers who are, finishing their degrees, and now they're like, what? Now what? But you have to remember and think back about what you really wanted to do, like when you were younger, or what you always loved.
Yeah, it is kind of easy to get off track, especially when you're in, let's say, grad school, and everybody is applying for a certain kind of a job, or you have these online recruiters, and so you end up in there too, just because it's what everybody is doing, and you might forget what your thing is that might be very unique and different, and it's good to, remember what that is.
So this is the question I ask at the end of all my interviews. What is one thing you wish you would have known as a young professional woman just starting out in her career?
So I learned that it really is true that if you ask for something, if you stick your neck out and ask for something, the majority of the time, people will be willing to help you and make it happen. So, like when I was fresh out of college, I was a Russian regional studies major, and I had a dream at the time of starting an adoption adoption program in Russia. But when I stuck my neck out and asked around and tried to do it, it happened. Like a year later, I was in Russia, like in orphanages.
Wow.
Now, as you know, that was kind of like that wasn't my main passion. It took me 15 years to, really zero in on my true passion. But this kind of thing has happened for me again and again, where I, try something, and it's a matter of having the courage to go straight to the source and just call. You might call somebody who's like the president of a company, a senior vice president, somebody you might be afraid to call, or maybe an author you're afraid to contact. But if you actually stick your neck out and ask, so often people are happy to help you. So you might as well start doing that sooner than later, and ask for what you really need and want. Get clear on what that is so that you ask for the right things, because you'll be surprised.
Yeah, no, it's so true, because everyone I've emailed for these interviews or for informational interviews, everyone's always responded, and happy to help. So that's such a good point.
That's great. Yeah, you're the perfect example. You probably do that all the time. And look where you are now. I love your blog. You're really doing great things.
Thank you. So where can people find out more about you online?
Our book is called The Career Within You. So go to careerwithinyou.com, and we have tons of free stuff, free quizzes, free strengths questionnaires. So you can get almost all of it there, careerwithinyou.com.
Yep, and you can get the quiz that I took today there too. So thanks so much for being here today. It was a lot of fun chatting with you, Ingrid.
You too.
Awesome.
All right, best wishes.
This is Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com.